Happy CM Punk Day, my friends. I know he's not turning up on Impact Wrestling, but look, Impact Wrestling keep opening that there forbidden door. So if I want to step through it and do it here on Ups and Downs, you can bet your ass that I'm going to. Also, never bet your ass. What if you lose that bet? What are you going to be? Mr. No Ass? I know what I'm talking about. That sounds like I once bet my ass. Let's just move on. My name is Simon Miller. I am an absolute moron. I am very excited for this weekend's wrestling because there's so much going on. Obviously, we've got Rampage, we've got SummerSlam, and a bunch of other stuff. But before we do get there, we have to look at Impact Wrestling, who also have another event later because wrestling is nuts. So was this show any good? Or did it absolutely crap the bed? Let's find out by upping those downs. Impact started by making a huge deal about the fact that Christian Cage is their brand new world champion. And I love all this stuff because, again, the forbidden door. But nowadays, you can watch one promotion and storylines then segue into another promotion. And the only difference is that on the building, you have 3 different initials. This really is how wrestling should be. Josh Matthews and Gia Miller are in the ring being like, oh man, what a great day for Impact Wrestling, when W. Morrissey and Eddie Edwards came spilling out the entranceway having a fight. It's a little bit like 2 kids going, my dad's better than your dad. And guess who made the save for Eddie Edwards? None other than Sami Callihan, the man who on multiple occasions has tried to murder Eddie Edwards. They had a brief stare down, probably because Eddie was like, look, I want nothing to do with you, you absolute psychopath. But my word, Sami Callihan was hyped up here. And he was like, look, I'm supposed to have a match later, but I don't want to wait. We should do it right now. So we did. He was also being extra friendly on this evening because he was teaming up with Chris Sabin to take on Moose and Ace Austin because, of course, last week they were the last guys in the Battle Royal. They're going to have a big match to find out who is going to be the #1 contender. And obviously Sami Callihan was very confident it's going to be him, but we'll find that out later on. Other companies should absolutely take a page out of Impact Wrestling's book here, though, because this was just go, 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 and got you right into the show. And I tell you, even though the Sami Callihan face turn has a bit like, wait a minute, where did that come from? It's exactly the right time to do it. It has freshened up his character. And let's face it, he's still nuts. As expected, these two worked over Ace Austin until Moose got in there. And as soon as Moose did get in there, it was like he had a sniper target right on Chris Sabin's head because he went for this man. This is the feud that will go on forever. Moose actually screwed up because he started playing to the fans, which allowed Sabin to get some shots in. But then on the outside, here was Madman Fulton to interfere. Can somebody please get in touch with the Wrestling Referee Association, or whoever the hell runs their officials, and tell them they all need to do a better job. The finish saw Chris Sabin take some real control as well, because Sami Callihan had got the hot tag and he had run wild, but he was taking too long to finish off Ace Austin after these guys had got rid of Moose. So Sabin tagged himself back in, he hit the cradle shock, and he beat him, and then he looked at Sami like, don't waste my time, it's very limited. The real cherry on top of all of this, though, is that when we were done, Sami Callihan still planted Chris Sabin with the Cactus Special because, again, even though we like him more now, deep down in his tum-tum, he's the same person, always very important when you make the switch. All of this was very entertaining. Impact's Tag Team Division 2. Not only recently did we see the Good Brothers taking on Yuji Nagata and Jon Moxley, but right after that, the Gorillas of Destiny were here, and I think on some sort of platform, we're gonna do that match. And who the hell knows where, because again, forbidden door. Gallows and Anderson turned their attentions to GOD here, and they were like, man, don't come up in our house, because we will whip your ass. And later on, as we found out last week, we were gonna get Luke Gallows versus Joe Doering. And as a little bit of a sleeper, don't sleep on this. My word, it surprised me. Double down on all the Sami Callihan stuff afterwards because he said that he will become the #1 contender soon, and the only reason Christian Cage was able to defeat Kenny Omega was because Sami softened him up. This is when Eddie Edwards approached him again and was like, look man, I don't want your help at all, you better stay away from me. And Sami Callihan seemed more open to the idea of tagging with him. So this is one of those situations where we have to sit down and wait and see what's going to happen. Matt Cardona was then trying to get double revenge on Rohit Raju, and this feud really makes me laugh, because it's based on the fact that Rohit Raju was throwing some bags around and Matt Cardona didn't appreciate it, and the fact that Rohit Raju cost Matt Cardona a match against a guy who was basically a rookie. He wasn't taking on Rohit directly here because he was going against Shearer instead, which is a bit like having to go through the mid-level boss until you get to the final boss. And of course, Raju was on the outside and so was Chelsea Green, so it was just shenanigans, nonsense and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of interesting though, because here Matt Cardona had to play the small guy because Shearer is much better than him. And I was like, I can't remember the last time I saw that. And then my brain went, yes I can. It was probably when Zack Ryder was in a wheelchair and Kane pushed him off the Raw stage. What fun times they were. Of course, Raju was laying in the cheap shots until Chelsea Green got bored of this and gave him a slap round the face. And back in the ring, Shearer had basically become a bad guy from Batman Arkham Asylum because he would run, Matt Cardona would get out of the way, Shearer would hit something, and then Matt Cardona was able to beat him up. He then hit the radio silence, 1, 2, 3. I thought all of this was fine. And of course, soon Matt Cardona will take on Rohit Raju. Just a nice little feud on Impact. Locker room talk was then back because of course Madison Rayne has returned to Impact, but as I'm sure you know if you are a frequent watcher, this happens on the same set as All About Me, which is the talk show hosted by Tennille Dashwood. Now usually when it comes to pro wrestling, I, Simon Miller, cannot handle multiple talk shows, but this was actually a really clever idea. Because Madison Rayne was interviewing Tennille Dashwood, and Tennille Dashwood was interviewing Madison Rayne, but they were doing it from the exact same studio, but were just communicating via video link. Actually thought it was rather original. They are now definitely a tag team as well because they're calling themselves The Influence, but the fallout from all of this was Caleb with a K and Johnny Swinger falling out, and then everybody convincing Caleb he should go and have a go at Scott D'Amore for everything that's been going down in the promotion lately. This of course includes booking Caleb against Taylor Wilde, and that was a little bit out of left field. I was like, I don't really understand where that had come from. And as a complete crazy aside, I think Impact Wrestling should bring in the Iconics to feud with these two. I don't know why, it just entered my brain. But again, for the creativity here, up. Quick interview with Josh Alexander too. He doesn't care that Jake something is bigger and stronger than him. He is going to defend his X Division champion because he wanted to become the face of the company. And I understand that you wanted to put some kind of narrative in here, but I never really looked at Josh Alexander and Jake something and gone, oh man, that Jake something, he all big and strong compared to Josh Alexander. But whatever, Jake something, they did turn up and they had a big face-off, you know the deal. As something walked away though, we bumped into Caleb with a K talking to Scott D'Amore, and stupid old Caleb, because he was going, man, I want a match, you better give me the match. And then Scotty saw Jake something, he said, okay, you could have one, and these two are going to have a fight later. Christian then arrived to celebrate his big world title win, and I had absolutely no problem with this. It felt like a homecoming of sorts. Christian right now feels like a bigger star than he has done in ages. I still think he's underrated. He's just so damn good. He also put over this achievement and how pleased he was to come back to Impact Wrestling, and he also made sure to tie up some loose ends because he took the TNA World Champion and said, look, it's time to retire this. We have to look to the future, and that makes all the sense in the world. It was cool when Moose brought it back for his storyline, but that was ages ago. Let's just have this one big belt and go nuts with that. It's also important because if you're a brand new watcher to Impact, you're probably like, what the hell is TNA? I don't understand all these initials being thrown at my face. And of course, at this juncture, out came Brian Myers, who is the #1 contender, and he was flanked by his protege, Sabin. Christian was awesome during this as well, because he was just throwing all the shots at Brian Myers, including going, oh, how does it feel being in Matt Cardona's shadow? So that was really funny. And of course, before long, Brian Myers tried to attack him, but Christian got the upper hand. But he beat up Sam Bill because we're doing this match instead. And the only problem with doing Brian Myers versus Christian for that World Championship is I don't think anybody or their dog actually believes that Cage is going to lose it. And if Impact did do that, it would blow my brain. Not because I don't think Brian Myers could be world champion, he certainly could, but it just ain't the time to do it. But needs must, and this was nice and simple stuff, and it really has put Christian Cage back on this pedestal, and I hope everybody keeps him there. It was then time for the Forbidden Door, but again, I don't write this stuff, I just have to tell you because Melina was appearing on Impact. This was doubly cool, because moments before this, we had an advert for the NWA Empower event. So this is like the Ghostbusters, man. We are just crossing the streams, although they didn't want us to cross the streams. There's always an exception to every rule. She was facing Brandy Lauren too, so you instantly knew what to expect. This was just about building Melina up, so you may go, oh my gosh, maybe she will defeat Dorana Pratzo for her Impact Women's Championship. She hit the California Dreaming. That was that. It was okay. Pratso was out like lightning following this to beat up Melina, and she was being assisted by Matthew Raywalt, so those two are definitely an item. And can you believe who made the save? Who needs a storyline right now? Who needs to be inserted into a narrative? If you said the name Trey Miguel, you get 10 points, or you probably just watch the show. So I guess we'll start doubling down on that soon, and I tell you, that was not on my expected 2021 list, but I'm biased towards the former Aiden English. I'm just happy somebody gave him a chance. This stuff with John Schuyler too, if it goes in the way that I'm hoping it's gonna go, I am going to start doing backflips and break my neck. But he was being interviewed here like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you got that huge surprise win over Matt Cardona last week. And he just became an arrogant Alex. He was like, what do you mean surprise win? No, it wasn't. I am a terrific professional wrestler, and if you want me to do it again, I will. Brilliant. So please do more of this. Seriously, do more of it. Once again, it felt really unique. And we also use this as another segue camera pan shot, because when we did go to the right, who was on the floor going, oh, I've been beaten up, somebody help me? It was Juice Robinson, and David Finlay was also there, and he looked very concerned. So if this was a detective novel, the blame would be placed on him, but I doubt we're going to do that. They're such a good tag team, and it will ultimately tie into all the Bullet Club stuff. Real smartness by Impact Wrestling after this as well, because we showed the footage of Jordynne Grace competing in a weightlifting competition that she did a few weeks ago when she was breaking records and winning titles. She's also going to be in another competition in a few weeks' time, and the reason this works is because when you mix reality into your wrestling, surprise, surprise, it feels real, and it allows you to get behind the characters even more. So I'm excited to see what she is going to do, and if nothing else, it's just really, really badass and cool. And then Jake something just destroyed Caleb with a K. And Caleb was wearing a neck brace here with a bow tie, because I guess you always want to look smart. And while this wasn't bad, I felt like it kind of interrupted the flow of Impact Wrestling this week. Like, I just thought to myself, did I need to see Caleb with a K get destroyed by Jake something? Especially because, look, between you and me, they have the dumbest names in the entire promotion. But my answer was no. So I wasn't offended by it, but I'm still giving it a doubt. Of course, Jake something absolutely ruined him, because can you imagine if we had done anything different? And afterwards, Josh Alexander was back and these two guys looked at each other. But don't get me wrong either. I think this match is absolutely going to smash it. Once more, you should put it on your watch. Su Yung was back next. And flub me sideways, this really is a bit of a trip. Because of course she has transformed Kimberly into the undead Kimberly. And the undead Kimberly was here saying, oh, Su Yung, mummy, I went and ate a bunch of souls this week. Are you proud of me? And I kind of watched the TV like this. I was like, I have no idea what's going on. Am I safe? Is anybody safe? What the hell is happening? I mean, that may not have even been a good recap, but it is so strange. But genuinely, more power to you if you like it. The main event then followed, and there is no way that Big E didn't tune into this, because it was Luke Gallows versus Joe Doering, and it was just big man meat slapping other bits of man meat and punching each other in the face as hard as they could. This was a right surprise. I mean, they just kicked each other's ass, and they did this outside of the ring, they did it inside of the ring. At one point, Joe Doering got Luke Gallows in this crazy vertical suplex and held him up there for about 85 years. And when was the last time you ever saw that? It was also completely different to what these guys would usually do, and the best bit was, no matter what they did do in the squared circle, you always knew, or eventually you did, that another big maneuver was coming, and they were going to spill back to the outside. This did keep happening over and over and over again, before they fought their way up the ramp, where Luke Gallows gave Joe Doering a sky high, and they went flew the flubbing floor. I mean, you could have saved this for the pay-per-view, but it was much better doing it on free TV because it made you go, what? They also teased like this was going to be a double counter, and for once you could have got away with it if it wasn't for those meddling kids. But Impact were having none of that this week. They're like, no, we need a finish, we need a winner. So they got back in the ring. Joe Doering smacked Luke Gallows with his massive lariat, and he pinned him, and I kid you not, that made this all the better still. Give me an actual victor on a wrestling show? Well, oodalally. Doering also hit this as Luke Gallows was coming off the second rope, so it looked even better. And honestly, you need to go and check this out if you are looking for some entertainment today. Just fabu. Which brings us to the end of another episode of Impact Wrestling, and overall I am going to give it an up, and I know that's boring, but the coolest thing about Impact is you always know to a certain extent what they're going to do. They are the definition of nice and simple, and sometimes in my life, I need some Ness. Now, please do leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Impact Wrestling. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head on over to WhatCulture.com to stay up to date with all the wrestling news. Come say hello on social media. And look, watch every single ups and downs video you can, especially the one tomorrow for AEW Rampage. Color me excited. My name is Simon for WhatCulture. Thank you for joining me as always. I have indeed kind of lost my voice because I had a wrestling match last night. And if you know anything about wrestling on the independent scene, you walk out and you go, brah! And then within 3 seconds, the old voice box is gone. What a dick. Goodbye.